Falcon and the Winter Soldier premiered this past weekend on Disney Plus, and Darius, again, I think you're just a bit more enthusiastic about this than I am. So why don't you tell us about Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Sure. So Falcon and Winter Soldier takes place 6 months after Endgame, and we follow Falcon, Bucky. Really, we follow Bucky and Sam as to what they're doing after the event of Endgame and what sort of drama they're in, and as well as the new threat that's arising, as well as Sam almost coming into his own as his own superhero and not being shadowed, really being in a shadow of Captain America. As we see in the episode, we still see Captain America's shield. And by the way, we will be getting into spoilers, so this is a
Yes.
spoiler episode, pretty much. So if you don't want to know anything, click back, come back, then watch. So
Yeah, slapping a big, go about, I want to say like 5 or 10 minutes here from now, just skip ahead to about then. And, yeah.
exactly.
So,
So
overall, this first episode I thought was pretty good. Like, it was okay overall.
yeah,
I'm waiting for that it factor to make the show pop. And I know a lot of the reactions for this episode were a lot more enthusiastic than mine is for sure, which is fine. But again, I still want to see what happens next, not because of like anything the show has really done so far, but
hmm
because of like how these characters have already been developed, and I want to see the directions that they take both Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes in.
no, yeah, for sure. To be honest, I'm actually in a similar boat as you. I thought it was pretty good. Okay. There are definitely moments where it did get my adrenaline pumping, mainly because I already watched another movie beforehand and I was already kind of pumped with that. So, but yeah. So overall, I mean, I thought it was pretty good, decent episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it. For some reason, it's just missing something for me. I think it's missing a
Yeah.
certain, I don't know what it is. I think maybe a bit more heart into it. And it's like, I'm not saying it doesn't have heart. Obviously, it does. You know, these creators and writers pour their passions and their bloods onto this show. But overall, just some of the drama for me, especially, like, one of the things I really did enjoy. I honestly like this more than the other aspect. Is actually like Bucky's intro and his drama and his internal conflict
Hmm.
more than Sam, to be honest. And that's going to be interesting going forward because you have this show that is propping up these characters and comic canon wise they both become Captain America at some point in their careers. So it's going to be interesting where this show really ends off, either who becomes Captain America, is there is another Captain America, or is Captain America just dead and leave it at Steve Rogers? So for me, this episode I thought it was a pretty solid, decent, okay episode. It's just it lacked a bit more, I guess, emphasis in really some of the struggles, in my opinion. Sam, it's like I understood where he was coming from. You got a sense of his family, the family struggle, which I
Hmm.
really did enjoy. But for some reason, I just wasn't attached to that as much as I was attached to Bucky. I guess mainly because Bucky has been manipulated almost throughout his entire life. He's done things
His
that is
extended life,
what
basically.
yeah, exactly. And even the scene where he's with the father of a young man he killed, I thought how that played out really honestly was pretty beautifully because not a single word was said in a certain scene. You can just tell in his eyes and his emotions, and you can see that connection. And I was like, oh, that's the father, and I was like, that hit home
Hmm.
for me. And
Yeah.
again, I'm liking Bucky's introduction and his arc much more than Sam. I thought I would like Sam more, but Bucky, I'm really enjoying.
Yeah. And again, like there are a few things that that the show has established so far. Again, you have Bucky's complicated or even traumatic past, depending on how you look at it, and that's a direction that I think has a lot of potential for some real, just like thought provoking, storylines. And I think too, when it comes to that, as opposed to Sam Wilson's character, and again, even though not as much has been really developed with Sam Wilson's character at this point, there is still an affable charm there about him. And I look at him and I look at Bucky and I'm like, okay, watching these two bounce off of each other when they actually get to bounce off of each other, I think is going to create a great dynamic. But overall, the turns so far from Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan are pretty strong. You can't really expect much less from anything having to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Same with the action. The action is pretty great so far. But, again, like I said, I'm just waiting for that bite that really makes the show stand out. The episode ended off on an interesting point, but still looking back at it, I'm like, I wasn't like 100% enthralled throughout the entire 50-minute episode. But at the same time, again, I still see potential in this too. Once again, because of like what's already been done with these characters before the show started.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to go in an interesting direction, almost very similar to WandaVision, where in the beginning of WandaVision, not a lot of people were already on board compared to me, right? And even this one, not a lot of people are jumping on board yet. But I think given the next 2 to 3 episodes, this is a 6-episode series. So within the next 2 to 3, I think it's going to start to kick up for sure. And considering, I mean, each episode's 50 minutes, so let's hope.
And it's funny you mentioned WandaVision too, because like WandaVision immediately had that, in my opinion, it immediately had that thing about it that made it stand out, like this sort of like off kilter aspect, like as far as like it being like a 1950s sitcom, just felt very mysterious from the beginning, especially when it had that moment where it stopped being a sitcom and just got very trippy. But like when it comes to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I get it, like it's a different kind of, it's still like a different approach, but I'm waiting for that thing that makes it stand out from other MCU content. And again, I do think it could get there because of how the characters have already been developed so far, how they're going to bounce off of each other in the episodes to come. I do see potential, but we're not there yet. But I'm still looking forward to being able to just follow the show over the next few weeks.
If there's anything I really like about this show, and probably that is really similar to one of my favorite MCU movies, and that's Winter Soldier. It really encapsulates, I guess, some of the fighting choreography, which I've been hoping for a while in some of the Marvel films after Winter Soldier, but I haven't really gotten that. So with this, for the fighting choreography and the action to really stand out for me and remind me of that movie, I was really excited. And even seeing recurring characters from that movie come back in here, like the Leaping Barrack, the same actor that was in Winter Soldier, he's back in this. It was awesome, great to see him, especially after 10 years? Considering the time skip. So it's like, hey, he's still looking good in his age. All right.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just have to see exactly what happens moving forward with the show, but I'm curious as to what you guys are thinking. What did you think of Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Leave your thoughts in that comment section there below.